Right now on Brookland News Live, President Trump set to sign an executive order on vaccines. We are live right now and we'll bring you there coming up here in just a few moments. And happening right now out of Plymouth, Massachusetts, the continued trial into its now third week in the case of Lindsay Clancy, accused of killing her 3 children, while the defense claims, mental health. We'll bring you there. And right now in Brookland, we've got an update on your forecast coming up here in just a little bit. You're taking a live look right now. More on that coming up in just a few moments. You're watching Brookland News Live. Our coverage starts right now.
Brookland News Live starts right now with breaking news.
And that breaking news coming to us right now live from the White House as you take a live look there on the right side of your screen. It's going to be with you on this Monday, August 10th, 2026. I'm Jackson Mitchell. We're coming on the air just a few moments early because the president started speaking before we expected him to. Again, right now, the president set to sign an executive order on vaccines from the White House. This comes as we are getting some new information just in moments ago about former advisor to former President Joe Biden on health and the COVID-19 coronavirus. Dr. Fauci, we're learning that there has been some new text released specifically about the vaccine. We'll get to that later in the show. Right now, though, we do want to take you to the breaking news that is being discussed live from the White House. Here's President Trump speaking right
now. So they get 20% of what they would have gotten in one big shot. A big shot like the size of a large glass of something. This announcement is a major victory for parents' rights, for religious and constitutional rights, and for the gold standard science, and we will continue to do the research and update the recommendations as we learn more, and I think you're going to see some amazing results. I'm breaking it up. It's not only that you're doing fewer vaccines or jabs, as they say, but you're doing them in a series of visits to the doctor, much smaller amounts. To ensure Americans benefit from these recommendations, my administration is fully committed to using every tool at our disposal, including a review of potential funding and finding. Frankly, we're doing funding and we're doing findings, and the findings will be announced almost immediately as we gain some strong surety. So now I'd like to have Bobby say a few words, followed by Jay, Heidi, and Jamie, and then I'll sign the executive order, which I'm very excited about. Because I came in and I said, I want to find what's going on with autism. It's many, many times what it used to be years ago, and it gets progressively worse, and we add progressively more and more vaccines. So in a nutshell, and you can see it through this, we're breaking up the vaccines and we're breaking them up into time periods. Okay, not so complicated. And we think we're going to have a tremendous result from doing that. Very simply, large amounts of vaccine, large amounts of like vats of vaccine are currently pumped into your child's body. And we're doing 20% of that at each visit. And we'll let time elapse between visits so the body can handle this massive amount of fluid being pumped in. I think it's going to make a big difference. You know, there are some groups that have virtually no problem with autism. And I have to say this, they're groups that aren't big into the world of vaccines. So there's something wrong when we see record numbers all the time. Every year, for years and years, every year gets higher, higher, higher autism. And we think we have a very good recommendation, and a lot of good things are happening. We're going to be releasing some very detailed paper. Here's another one, European countries versus the United States. Look at that. These are high-level, very medically powerful European countries. You see the top, that little chart says a lot, but that's the difference. So with that, I'd like to have Bobby say a few words, please, and then we'll go to the others. Please, Bobby.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to start by just reinforcing something the President said, which is the source of his concern about this issue. And I'll just give an example. In 1970, the biggest epidemiological study at that time in history was performed. And the university scientists from across this country looked at all the 8-year-olds in Wisconsin, about 900,000 children. And they were looking for autism, and they knew what autism looked like. And they came back with an incident rate of 0.8 per 10,000. So less than 1 in 10,000. The rate, according to CDC today in this country, is 1 in every 31 children. In California, it's 1 in every 19 children, 1 in every 12.5 boys. So there has been a dramatic increase. One of the things that the industry likes to say, one of the talking points, which the press loves to parrot, is, oh, we're just noticing it more. But this is an absurdity, and this is an assertion that has been debunked again and again and again by peer-reviewed literature. But it's also debunked by common sense. Because if we were just noticing it more, we would notice it in older groups. But we're not. We're only noticing it in kids who were born around 1989 or after. The older generations, you're not seeing those increases. So something happened in the mid-90s that changed our children, and it has to be an environmental exposure. Because genes don't cause epidemics. They can provide a vulnerability, but you need an environmental toxin. And what the president has charged us with is finding which one of those exposures or which collection of exposures are causing this epidemic. For decades, I fought for a simple principle. When it comes to the health of our children, government has an obligation to follow the evidence wherever it leads. Tell the American people the truth and give parents the information they need to make informed decisions for their families. Mr. President, you gave us a mandate to do just that. You directed HHS to examine America's childhood vaccine recommendations against the best available science and the practices of other developed nations. We did that work, and on January 5th, HHS and CDC overhauled the childhood immunization schedule, reducing the number of diseases universally recommended for vaccines from 17 to 11, and establishing distinct categories of recommendations based upon the scientific evidence. Our assessment found that the United States recommended more childhood vaccines than any other peer nation. President Trump mentioned the number that's 72 jabs before 18, but it actually could be up to 94 jabs. And nobody else has anything like that. And then many other countries, or most other countries, achieve high vaccination rates through education, informed consent, and public trust rather than mandates. Today, with this executive order, you are building on that work and acting on that evidence. We will preserve access to vaccines, strengthen safety monitoring, expand research, give doctors and parents better information, and restore informed consent and parental choice to their rightful place in American medicine. At HHS, we are already moving across multiple agencies, FDA, CDC, NIH, ARPA-H, NTP, the National Toxicity Program, and other parts of the department. We have already launched unprecedented research effort examining vaccine safety and long-term health outcomes in American children. We are putting some of the largest health data sets in the country to work, including CDC's Vaccine Safety Data Link, FDA's BEST systems, and other major federal and private health data sources. We're pursuing dozens of studies and analyses. We are comparing health outcomes in vaccinated versus unvaccinated children. We're examining aluminum adjuvants, the timing of the hepatitis B vaccine, vaccines administered during pregnancy, and outcomes ranging from allergies to autoimmune disease to autism and other neurodevelopmental disorders. At NIH, the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences are working with the National Toxicity Program on a comprehensive review of vaccine adjuvants, ingredients that are added to vaccines to amplify the body's immune response. They will determine what the existing science establishes and where uncertainty remains and where we need additional research. We're bringing that same determination to autism. NIH has launched the Autism Data Science Initiative with 13 research awards examining autism prevalence, causes, treatments, and services. 5 of these will include vaccines among the potential factors that they examine. Dr. Bhattacharya will discuss that work in greater detail. Next month, ARPA-H is preparing a major new initiative focused on foundational causes and biology of autism and on better diagnostics, treatments, technologies, and tools for people with autism and their families. We will examine every biologically plausible hypothesis and leave no legitimate scientific question unexplored. Mr. President, you have told us that you want answers, so do I. We have just over 2 years to finish the work, and I know you're impatient, and we are moving with the urgency that deadline demands. We will bring you actions and findings as soon as they are ready. We will not wait for the 90-day period, and within 90 days, as you have directed, we will deliver the full response required by this executive order. Our task force on safer childhood vaccines was established by Congress in 1986, but went dormant in 1998. Last year, after nearly 3 decades, this administration reinstated it as required by the statute, and yet it was discontinued. And you restored that congressional mandate. The task force is already working to expand vaccine options, examine the timing and sequencing of childhood vaccines, strengthen safety monitoring, advance research into alternative adjuvants, and continuously evaluate risks and benefits using American and international evidence. Taken together, this is what gold standard science means. No predetermined answers, no institutional taboos, no sacred cows, no hiding uncertainty. Test the hypothesis, examine the data, replicate the results, tell the public what we find, and be honest. This is the standard you have set for this administration. It's the standard I intend to enforce at HHS, Mr. President. You asked us to get this done, and we are getting it done. And we will keep working with urgency until American parents can have confidence on the medical advice that their government gives them is worthy of their trust. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bobby. And Jay, please.
Today's a historic day for public health in this country. The executive order recognizes the plight of millions of parents across the country with autistic children. Autism is a very complicated condition with very heterogeneous, ranging from relatively mild symptoms where kids are full functioning to a devastating condition that fundamentally alters their lives and the lives of their families. You've heard from Secretary Kennedy and from the President their passion for the plight of these families, to see how we can help them understand the condition, to help prevent those conditions from happening in the first place. And what this executive order does is it orders us at HHS to take this extremely seriously, as we have been for the last year and a half and more of the presidency. At the NIH, what we've done is we have established the Autism Data Science Initiative, which started almost a year, actually more than a year ago, where we funded a dozen and more major research teams to answer the question of what is the cause of autism. It's a complicated biological phenomenon. It's not going to be a simple answer. It will have, as the Secretary said, potentially genetic predisposition, but that cannot possibly explain why we've seen such a large rise in autism. There must be some other environmental factors involved, and that's the basis for thinking that's driving these dozen and more research teams that are looking at this. The science takes time. It's very frustrating, and I know I felt that frustration myself. As a scientist, you don't get answers immediately. But the teams have been working assiduously for a year, and the main thing I want to emphasize that we've already accomplished in that year is we've changed how people and the scientific community thinks about autism. You've given them permission to ask the question that would otherwise have been difficult to answer where you know, it's if you come to an answer that links autism to some other politically correct things, and you all of a sudden have this link, as a scientist, you fear that your career is going to be over. What we've done in this administration is we've given permission to scientists to honestly answer this question, to find the link for the first time. And with the change in the vaccine recommendations that the president has signed, what you have given is parents a choice, autonomy, a decision-making over how they want the vaccines given to their kids. I mean, I believe fundamentally that many vaccines are important. I said measles, for instance. The measles vaccine is important if we want to take control of the measles outbreak. But at the same time, we shouldn't be keeping kids out of school because they have made different decisions than other parents. Our European colleagues don't do that. A lot of the collapse in trust in public health has come because of these mandates that we've seen imposed during the Biden administration on the COVID vaccine and so many other things. What this does is it restores autonomy of families and parents to make good decisions for their kids. It allows and continues to emphasize the importance of science in recommendations about vaccines, and fundamentally restores a sort of a healthy relationship between public health and parents, more in line with what happens in European countries than in the United States, where the childhood outcomes are often much better than we see here. It's a big first step that that builds on what we've been working on the last year and a half toward a more sane public health system that sees healthy kids grow up without pressure, without undue influence, to make good decisions for their families and for their kids.
Thank you, Steve, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Because of your courage and leadership, Mr. President, millions of parents all over America today are breathing an enormous sigh of relief. I say this as the parent of young children myself. Millions and millions of parents feel they've been pressured when their children are just weeks out of the hospital to take 5 shots, 6 shots, 7 shots all at once. They're told it'll be normal. Your kid will have a fever of 103 for 3 or 4 days. Your kid will stop eating for a week. Your kid's going to change all their sleeping. Don't worry, it's totally fine. It's totally normal. Nobody has studied it. Nobody's looked at it. Nobody's thought about it. The pressure from the pharmaceutical industry and from aspects of the medical industry to pump your kids full of shots days after birth with no understanding of the long-term consequences has been a medical travesty. This is an issue, Mr. President, that you have been leading on for years, and of course the man to your left has been leading on this issue for years as well, too. It's a really incredible moment to stand here today and finally see the concerns of parents around this country addressed. There's been so much heartache where parents have had healthy children with no issues. They know they've been pressured into doing things that they didn't want to do, and medical science has told them for years that their concerns are not valid. This order does 2 fundamental, incredibly important things. First is we get off of this ridiculous path of having our children get 70 to 90 shots. That is wantonly excessive. Remember, each and every one of these shots produces a profound immunological response. So across any large population, if you give a kid shot after shot after shot, you're going to have vaccine injuries. You're going to have immunological issues. You're going to have potentially neurological issues. Secondly, and so important to you, Mr. President, is the unbundling of the shot. Why do you need to have these shots bundled into these packages? Why can't you split it into 5 visits and give this young body, if a parent wants to do a vaccine, 1 shot at a time? Why is it that in Japan, you can get a separate measles shot, a separate mumps shot, a separate rubella shot? But in America, it has to all be packaged together. This is a courageous action, Mr. President. This is an action that ensures the dignity of patients, the dignity of parents. It restores choice. It says we're going to let the parent and the doctor make a sound medical decision. And again, I'll just say one more time, the fact that you have had the courage to push this forward, knowing the unfair criticisms from some in the establishment, and to give the chance for Bobby, who spent decades representing parents, to stand here today. It's such a profound moment, it's such a beautiful moment, and it's going to lead to such incredible advances in our understanding of children's health and making sure that, yes, we can be a country that has safety and security for our families and our children, while at the same time protecting patient choice. You can have both these things. This order accomplishes it. I'm so proud to be standing here today, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you. Heidi?
Yeah, Yes, thank you, Mr. President. It's an honor to be here today. It is a historic day and a historic action. Many people have asked the difference between this executive order and what you signed in December in a presidential memorandum and what you signed later on in May. Just want to quickly answer that question. In December, the presidential memorandum directed HHS to produce the scientific assessment that they did, and then they overhauled the vaccine schedule. Those actions have since been held up in court. And so right now, Americans don't have access to that information, and you are correcting that wrong today and saying, I am giving Americans this information directly so that they know what HHS found in the scientific assessment themselves. But most importantly, states are actually the place where school vaccination requirements are implemented. It's state laws and regulations. And the CDC.
Alrighty, you are continuing to listen in there to officials speak at the White House right now as President Trump in just moments is expected to sign an executive order that would essentially require a spacing out of childhood vaccines. I was reading into more about this before the show, and as the president was speaking there, we want to talk more about this. I was specifically reading into an Associated Press report that says, and I'm just going to quote directly from it. It says, quote, the order will recommend separating the measles, mumps, and rubella, or also known as MMR vaccine, into 3 different shots administered in separate visits. So that goes to, again, this spacing out. The president's long-held beliefs is what this also all goes to. So the president, again, is expected to sign this executive order coming up in just a few moments. We wanted to listen in there live at the White House. That's why we came on the air just a little bit early, because we wanted to make sure that we were listening in to this. So the Associated Press notes this, and this is something that is true. It says Trump has been fixated on connecting autism to vaccines. He has recently ramped up pressure on Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He was the first person to speak after the president to identify the cause of autism, something Kennedy had pledged to do with new research unveiled last year. Trump publicly prodded the health secretary for an update on autism research in a cabinet meeting last month, where he asked, how are you doing on the autism research? And then it was a response from Kennedy which said, we will have an answer for you. So there you go. So this announcement coming just now moments ago, you see the president speaking once again. Just kind of wanted to break in for just a few moments. The president's likely going to sign this executive order. Maybe he'll take a few questions here. So let's take you back live over to the White House and listen in once again.
Or recommended. Think of it. So you have 1 in 10,000. And now it's 1 in 30. California, 1 in 18. And we got to get to the bottom of it. Please.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a mom, first and foremost. I have a 3.5-year-old, and I have another one on the way. And Mr. President, we are so thankful for all the work you've done in this country with the vaccines, the food systems. Thank you as well, Secretary Kennedy. I believe health is the #1 issue in this country. If you don't have health and we don't have a healthy country, we don't have anything at all. And no parent should feel the pressure of immediately their child is born and a bunch of vaccines are pressured and pushed upon them. This is about freedom at the end of the day. This is what this country was built on, freedom for parents to make the decisions that best suit their kid. And I'm not anti-vaccine at all, I'm pro-vaccine, but we want to be able to have the freedom to space it out and to choose which one works for our child. We don't believe that there's a one-size-fits-all solution for every child. So we're so thankful for everything that you're doing, Mr. President. It's just extraordinary.
Like the polio vaccine, it's amazing. Other vaccines, amazing. But some, there's questions about. We're going to figure it out. And I think we'll, the expression is we have really no choice. And nothing bad can happen from what we're doing. Nothing bad can happen. It's possible it doesn't work. I don't think that's much of a possibility, frankly. We're going to learn a lot. And we could get, if we could go back 20 years, 25 years, something happened in between that would lead us to the kind of numbers that we're seeing. So could I have that and I'll sign it?
Yes, sir.
Very happy to sign it.
This is your executive order on establishing gold standard vaccine recommendations, sir. As previous speakers have indicated, this is going to establish essentially a new vaccine schedule that is fully informed by the research and data that we have from HHS and NIH and other aspects of the government. It also takes a very hard line on some of the more paternalistic issues that we've been talking about here, sir, in terms of infringing on parents' religious liberty or really just parents' ability to make decisions for their children. So as Heidi said, this is a very big deal. We're not waiting for anyone else to take action, as you do so often, sir. We're just going ahead and doing the right thing based on all of the best available research to ensure that America's parents and children are being as best protected by the federal government as they can be.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, that's a big one in my book. All right. Any questions for us?
Mr. President, in addition to this big announcement, you've also been posting about Iran today opposing their latest demands. You said this last round of talks was Iran's last chance before decapitation. So what now? What
You'll
comes
find
next?
out. You'll find out.
Are you still, are massive escalation, is that still on the table?
Well, we have that, certainly that ability if we want to do that. Yeah, you'll find out.
You said you're low-keying it with them,
I
that you're
think so.
semi-negotiating. What exactly does that mean,
Well, they asked for reparations, you might say, or they asked for money for the damage that we've done. I said, that's a good idea. Well, we're going to ask for money for the damage they've done over a 50-year period. Whether you go SS Cole or whether you go all of the people that were so badly hurt, so badly wounded or killed, many thousands of people, and maybe damages for the 52,000 protesters over the last 4 months that were killed in Iran. We think their family should get damages for killing their person or their child or mother, father that were protesting. It's at least, it was 52,000 a month and a half ago. So now what is it? So if there's damages to be paid, I think Iran should pay those damages.
Mr. President, are you frustrated with Senate Republicans and Leader Thune for going home for recess without passing the Save America Act?
Well, I think they should pass voter ID. I think they should pass proof of citizenship. Basically, Save America, Save America Act. I think that should be something that we should absolutely get. Yeah.
Mr. President, you're a proud father. Would you have vaccinated your children differently based on the recommendations that
Well, I
you put out
did.
today?
I took my children for 5 different vaccinations. In other words, I broke it up. The one visit where they just pump, what seemingly looks like gallons, where they pump so much in. I took all of my children from day one. I believed in this a long time ago. I took them with my wife. I took them through 5 different visits to the doctor. Essentially, they get 20% each, and I had no problem. So it's inconvenient. It's 5 stops, but it's something that I think will have a huge impact on autism. Yeah.
Mr. President, the anti-weaponization fund, do you think it's still alive at this point, and are there any options that you're looking at to perhaps?
Well, that'll be up to Todd Blanche. He was our new, and who will be, I think, a great Attorney General. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Why does the establishment media so often seem to be against even asking questions about vaccines?
It's amazing. When you come up with a recommendation for a vaccine, it could be the medical groups, the pharmaceutical groups, I don't know, but it is amazing. There's nothing that we lose with this. If the worst thing that would happen would be nothing happens. We're not going to lose anything. At the same time, we could gain we could save hundreds of thousands of lives, millions of lives. And I wish we could have done it a long time ago. We got stopped by court. We had a court, I guess, in Massachusetts that stopped us very early on. I believed in this for a long time, so now we're getting it done. And I think you're going to see potentially tremendous results. Yeah, Dan?
Mr. President, a topic on manufacturing, if I may. The Bureau of Labor Statistics put out some information last week saying that U.S. manufacturing output, 4.6% increased in the first quarter of 2026. The Supply Management Institute, PMI, shows that manufacturing has expanded for 7 consecutive months. You've talked about the American manufacturing renaissance for about 10 years at this point. Given all the statistics and the investment that have come in, do you feel vindicated at this point?
So we're doing record increases in the United States in manufacturing. A lot of that has to do with the tariffs because companies are coming in, they're not able to sell their product unless they come in because they have no tariff if they build their product, whether it's a car or something else, if they make it in the United States. There is no tariff. So they're coming in. We have a record number of factories under construction, factories, plants, things as such. Toyota just announced that they're building the largest car plant. They make cars, plant in the world, anywhere in the world. They're leaving Mexico and they're coming to the United States. Many car plants, AI, other, they're opening. I will say that they're leaving Canada, they're leaving Mexico, they're leaving Germany, they're leaving Japan, they're leaving South Korea. They're coming into the United States because they don't want to pay a 25% tariff on a car, and they don't have to pay a tariff if they make it here. So we have the largest number of plants ever being built in the United States right now. Hard to believe, right? Because if you listen to some of our past projects, we'd never be a manufacturing country again. And these plants are going to start opening up in about 6 months. And I can only say that the next president will get a lot of credit for what I've done. Please remember, it was me, not them.
Mr. President, I think I heard you say that the MMR vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella is quite lethal. Is there any evidence of that? Because anyone in the room?
What I've heard is that there are some people that say it is that way. And I say, well, let's say there's a 5% chance of it. Let's split it up. Because they do say that given individual, MMR, that given individual, there is no impact. In fact, they've said how safe it seems to be. But I've heard when you put them together, they can be explosive. Yeah.
Mr. President, have you spoken with the new Attorney General or Jeanine Pirro about prosecuting Dr. Fauci?
I have not spoken to him about that, no.
Mr. President, Senators Rand Paul and Ron Johnson released some text messages from Anthony Fauci, and it appears that as early as January 2021, they knew that there could possibly be complications with pregnant women and miscarriages tied to the COVID vaccine. Yet the Biden administration health officials, they didn't change their rhetoric. Your reaction?
Well, the Biden administration was a disaster in every way. That would be just one way, but they have been a disaster in every single way. It's unimaginable what they did in that. Forget about weaponization, forget even about, as important as what you're saying, so many of the open borders, the men and women's sports, they've just been a horrendous disaster, the highest inflation in history. And we're doing a great job.
Mr. President, thank you. Unbundling the shots into more visits means more co-pays for families. What's your recommendation for families that can't afford to keep paying for those visits?
Well, we're going to be working with them. We're going to work with the families, and we're going to make sure everything works out cost-wise very well. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. What recommendations do you have for Republicans, heading into midterms right now? And are Democrats, with the candidates they're putting forward, making life easier for?
Well, the one thing is we have jihadists being elected all over the place. We have this, whether it's communism, jihadism. It's a friend of mine called up. He said, really, you should use the word jihadist because that's what's happening. And I'm not sure that anybody, if you take a look at what happens in other countries, I think that's not going to be necessarily the way we want to live. But when you look at the radicalism and the craziness of the candidates and the stupidity of what they're suggesting, let's get rid of the Supreme Court, let's get rid of the presidency, let's get rid of the Senate. They want to get, sometimes I'd like to get rid of the Senate too, but I don't say it, and I wouldn't do it. But, they want to get rid of the Senate, they want to get rid of, ideally, the House, but they're thinking about maybe keeping the House, Isn't that nice? These are people that have been not successful. They're people that have been, in many cases, failures. They come from other failed countries, and they come here and they tell us how to run our country. They come from places like, I won't mention because I don't want to get myself into a controversy, but they come from countries that are not great. They come from, let's say, as an example, Somalia. They come in and then they tell us how our Constitution, how our Declaration of Independence, how it works. It doesn't work that way, and they're not smart. They have no aptitude. They have nothing going, and they're telling us how to run our country. And I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that they start off, now I may be wrong, but they start off with a big disadvantage. People don't want to have radical lunatics involved in running our country, and that's what we have. We have people that are saying things that are so great. Now they're denying it, or they say, well, I've changed my mind. They want to defund our police. They want to terminate our military. No military. We don't want any military in our country. We don't want our police to be paid anymore. They want our police down to like almost nothing. It's like, doesn't make sense, right?
Mr. President, back to the subject of Iran, sir. Can you give us any estimate of when you think the Strait of Hormuz will be part
Well,
of
it's
any deal
open
to move
now.
about
We're
more?
taking a lot of ships. It's open now. Look, the only one that has control of the Strait of Hormuz right now is the United States Navy. We have a blockade that's been infallible. It's a steel wall. And we let people in that we want to let in, and those people come in, and they've been coming in and they're going out. So it's actually open now. We do not let them go into Iran. They're not admitted into the Strait to go to Iran. But it's open for others. Now, a little bit complex because they will, on occasion, drop a mine, and we find the mines. You know, we've mine swept the entire strait, as you probably maybe heard, maybe you didn't hear. But we control the strait 100%. Now, can they make trouble? Yeah, they can make trouble. But they're broke. They have no money. You know, Iran is broke, totally broke. And they're not paying their soldiers. They have inflation of 300% as of last night. I heard 309%. So we'll see what happens. But they've been bad for, they say 47, it's actually 50 now. You know, 47, they've been saying it for 3 years. But for 50 years, they've been the bully of the Middle East. What they've done is terrible. They've killed hundreds of thousands of people. They've killed people, they've wounded and maimed people with the legs, the arms, you know, with the roadside bomb is their bomb. They're very proud of it. And now they're paying a price. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, guys. You've been calling Chairman Warsh occasionally. What do you talk about?
No, actually, the Wall Street Journal had a wrong story. He said I spoke to him. No, I have tremendous respect for Kevin Warsh. I've only spoken to him one time briefly a few days ago, just a conversation. Look, he's going to do it. He's going to run it. I know what he'd like to do, but he has to run it. He's got a board. It's not only him. If it was up to him, it would be different. But he's got a board. But I've only, you know, they said I speak to him all the time. And I've spoken to him one time since his assumption, since he took over. And great conversation.
Excuse me, sorry, my mic was muted. I hate that that video ended while we were still listening into the president speak there. I'll see if we can catch the end of his comments. Looks like he's still speaking from the White House. Let's go back live and continue listening in.
Different. But he's got a board. But I've only, you know, they said I speak to him all the time. And I've spoken to him one time since his assumption, since he took over. And great conversation, but he's a great guy. You know, he's my pick. And I'm going with him 100%. But they made it sound like I live and breathe. You know, I speak to Kevin all the time, every time. I spoke to him one time. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, press. Thank you. Thank you.
Alrighty, we always stay for just an extra second because we never...
I do. I have a response. I put it out today on Truth.
Thank you.
Good response.
Thank you.
The relationship is very good. Yeah, thank you.
There we go. What I was trying to get to is we never quite know when the president is going to finish speaking, so he might say thank you, and then his remarks might continue. That's why we continue listening again at times, even though his remarks might be completed, because we never quite know if the president is going to continue speaking. Alrighty, welcome back here live in the Brookland News headquarters. I'm Jackson, still with you here as we are now in the bottom half of the 2 o'clock hour. Of course, it's still good to be with you. The president wrapping up, taking questions just moments ago. This came after he spoke to the press for, I would say, about 10-15 minutes there, as we were listening in, as the president signed an executive order, this on childhood vaccines and how exactly they're administered, specifically the spacing of them all. Even more specific on whether the MMR vaccine, which is several vaccines put together, separated into 5 vaccines. The president admitting that this might be inconvenient, but it is the best way to do things. And of course, for a long time, the president has linked vaccines to autism. The president believes, and the HHS secretary behind him on this one, RFK Jr. behind him on this one, saying that this will help autism. So we are going to, of course, stick with this story when there are updates. Of course, the president has been a long believer that vaccines are the cause of autism, as I noted a few moments ago. So the president just wrapping up, taking questions there live from the White House. He also clarified that he has not spoken to Janine Pirro nor Todd Blanche on prosecuting Dr. Anthony Fauci. Of course, was the head of the entire COVID-19 movement, you could say, as former President Joe Biden was in office. So we, of course, are going to bring you that story coming up here in just a few moments, and so much more. We're going to sneak in a really quick break here on Brooklyn News Live. When we come back, we're going to talk about this Anthony Fauci story. It's a pretty big one, just came out today. What new reporting and new text are now revealing. You're watching Brooklyn News Live. We'll be right back.
In a world that never stops, Brooklyn News is always there, bringing you news from Brooklyn.
Now to some news right now in Brooklyn. An increase to your trash pickup could be coming soon.
The Nation.
We're going to start first right now with the breaking news and the information that we know.
And the world.
In the meantime, though, we do want to get to the latest on the war in Iran.
Follow Jackson Mitchell and Brooklyn News.
Alrighty, happening right now, the Lindsay Clancy trial now entering its 3rd week. This is a big story that we've been following for the last 3 weeks. Lindsay Clancy is accused of killing her 3 children in the basement using exercise bands, while she and the defense, her lawyers are claiming she was essentially experiencing a huge mental health issue where she couldn't control herself. Right now, you are taking a live look in Plymouth, Massachusetts, where this trial is happening. On the stand is Dr. Jennifer Tufts. She is the psychiatrist who treated Clancy from September 2022 to January 2023, the day before the killings. Now, defense attorney Kevin Reddington is currently cross-examining her as of about just an hour ago or so. Now, they were covering whether Clancy had bipolar disorder. Tufts said no signs of mania, and why she didn't refer Clancy elsewhere for care. We're going to take you into that trial coming up in just a few moments, so stick with us for that on our continued coverage of the Lindsay Clancy trial. We're going to take you in there for just a few moments as we wrap up our coverage. We do want to talk about this big story. It is breaking news coming into us right now, and I just realized that Clancy was misspelled in that lower third. I apologize about that. Some breaking news coming into us right now. This is about Dr. Anthony Fauci, a big story there. Taking a look at this is from about 2 weeks ago or so. Dr. Anthony Fauci, when he testified on Capitol Hill. Today, big story coming out where Senators Ron Johnson and Rand Paul earlier today releasing initial text messages from Dr. Anthony Fauci's government-issued cell phone. Now, the phone, turned over by Health and Human Services last week, contains more than 34,000 texts and over 500 voicemails spanning from 2014 through Fauci's departure from the NIH in December of 2022. Now, Senator Johnson says only 3 contacts were saved on the phone, with most messages tied only to phone numbers. One released text chain shows Fauci's discussing COVID vaccine guidance for pregnant women with then CDC Director Rochelle Walensky and Surgeon General Vivek Murthy. This dated back to January of 2021. Now, investigators say it will take time to review the full volume of messages. The release follows Fauci's July hearing, as you take a look there, where he invoked the Fifth Amendment more than 100 times. So this is a story we're following again just moments ago. These texts release into the public. You heard the president answer a question, as I noted a few moments ago, whether he had asked the U.S. District of Columbia Attorney Janine Pirro or his new sworn-in Attorney General Todd Blanche to review this case, prosecute this case in any way. He said he has not. Now, we know that the Rand Paul has held Fauci in contempt. So this is, again, a big story that we've been following for the last few days and are going to keep our eyes peeled to as more information comes out. As we just noted a few moments ago, we're going to take you back live right now into the Lindsay Clancy trial. Again, she's the mother accused of killing her 3 children, and then she was found on the ground after she jumped from the 2nd story. So we are, of course, following that right now. We want to take you back live there right now. Give me just a moment here. I want to take you back live there right now to the Lindsay Clancy trial as we do continue to follow it. Again, a psychiatrist that was with that one of her patients was Lindsay Clancy at the time, the day before the murders, is on the stand. Let's continue listen again right now.
I'm just going to approach, if that's okay.
Yeah. And just so the records are Exhibit 79?
Yes.
All right, so those records, you'll have those with you. Okay.
So I have pages 61 through 66. So I think that's your note. If you can just take a look at that and let me know. Does that refresh your memory as to what your observations were of her mood?
Yes.
What was her mood?
Anxious.
Okay. And did you observe signs of anxiety, or did she tell you that she felt anxious?
She appeared anxious.
And her affect, did you observe it to be congruent to her mood?
Yes.
And you examined her and found her to have linear thinking and appear goal-directed, right?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as addressing kind of why she was there and what your recommendations were, ultimately, what were you trying to address or accomplish in the treatment plan with Ms. Clancy?
That's a very broad question.
Okay, I could break it down if that's okay.
Yes.
So as far as once you had a chance to sit and talk with her, what did she identify to you to be her main concerns that she wanted to address during her stay at McLean?
She did not want to be dependent on an antipsychotic medication, which is what Seroquel's class is, even though it's used for insomnia and other indications, depression. She didn't want to be dependent on Seroquel to be able to fall asleep.
Okay, and so fair to say she was very concerned about wanting to sleep at night.
Yes.
And she was very concerned about her symptomology, or what she was experiencing by way of symptoms from various medications, right?
Yes.
And that concept, or the phrase numbness, did she use that a few times?
Yes.
And again, You mentioned Dr. Madva was concerned about the numbness with the medication. In your experience with Seroquel, is that also a common side effect for people to feel numb?
It can be one of the side effects that people can have.
And as far as the suicidal statements that you were aware of from the prior reports, did you go through that with her about whether she presented to you with suicidal ideation?
Can you ask me that again?
Sure. Did you talk to her about her thoughts of suicide?
Yes.
And did you talk to her about whether she had any specific plan?
Yes.
Did she have any plan?
No.
Had she reported that she had ever had a plan for suicide?
No.
And did she tell you there were reasons why she thought she wouldn't commit suicide?
Yes.
And what were those reasons?
Her children and her family, her mother.
So after this face-to-face interaction with her and kind of going through her history and having reviewed what you had, the information you had about her, what did you develop as a plan for her while she was at McLean?
I continued with the plan to taper her off Seroquel and to monitor whether her symptoms improved, but also to see if she could sleep while she was off of Seroquel. And to really observe symptoms and mood.
During this first interaction with her, was there any conversation about how long she would stay or what her plan might be after she left McLean?
When we met the first time, Lindsay said that she had her daughter's birthday coming up on the weekend, and that it had been planned months ahead of that date, and she was hoping that she could be there that weekend so she could be with the kids and family who was going to come for the birthday party.
Now, the concept of kind of tapering her off the Seroquel and monitoring her symptoms, did that seem like a realistic goal to you?
Yes.
And now, after having spoken to her and developing this plan, were you also cognizant or thinking about the potential for a bipolar disorder diagnosis? And so how did that affect how you approached this plan to taper?
Again, we were observing for any symptoms that would indicate that she might have bipolar disorder.
And where she had reported that she had issues with sleep, was that also something of concern to you if there was the potential for a bipolar disorder?
Yes.
And reduction of medication, what was the concern for the sleep?
I think people's mental health is negatively affected if they cannot sleep, whether it's bipolar disorder or depression, and so sleep is important.
Okay, and so a person that you might be considering for a bipolar diagnosis would lack of sleep make you watch for symptoms of hypomania?
Yes, sleep deprivation can lead to a bipolar episode, a hypomanic manic episode.
So you wanted to monitor her patterns in her sleep and her mood to see if there was any evidence of that, correct?
Yes.
In this first interaction where you identified a plan, did you also make a suggestion about a particular medication that she might consider after the Seroquel had been discontinued?
Yes.
What was the alternative medication, if you will?
It was Cymbalta, which is an antidepressant.
And was that something that you intended to prescribe for her while she was there, or was it something that you suggested that she could consider as an outpatient?
It was just a consideration. It would depend on how she was doing after she was off of the Seroquel.
Now, what about the Valium? Was there a plan to address tapering or weaning her off Valium or an alternative to Valium?
Yes, I switched her from Valium to Ativan. Because it has a shorter half-life. And, you know, in my experience, it manages anxiety well.
And were you aware that she had taken Ativan before?
Yes.
And did she report any concerns about Ativan or benzodiazepines in general?
Yes.
And what was the concern she reported to you?
She stated that her husband had concerns about her being on a benzodiazepine.
During this interaction with her on the January 3rd, did you observe any signs of psychosis?
No.
And in the notes and the interactions with the providers prior to your meeting between January 1st and January 3rd, did anyone ever note any symptoms or concerns for psychosis?
No.
And you're aware that Ms. Clancy was also still in that, what was considered the postpartum period, right? She had had a child in May of 2022?
That's a tricky question to answer because different organizations or agencies assign postpartum a different length of time.
Okay, and so in your training experience and your experience as a person who diagnoses,
yes.
Did you consider postpartum as part of what you had to figure out here with this patient? Or was it really not a consideration?
It was.
Okay, and why was it for you?
I mean, she had a child, and the risk of postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis is a serious consideration.
Okay. Now, after this first meeting with Ms. Clancy on the 3rd, were you able to give her, in your own opinion, a diagnosis?
Yes.
And what was that?
You said after the 3rd?
Right.
Okay, so that would mean one meeting?
Yes.
I gave her a diagnosis of insomnia with a mental health condition because one day of observation wasn't sufficient for me to figure out if she truly, to give a solid diagnosis because it sticks with the patient.
Right. Fair to say you just didn't have enough information at that point.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So again, you saw her on January 3rd, and that was approximately 9:15 a.m., right?
If that's what it says. Yeah.
Well, at the top of your inpatient progress note on page 61 of the exhibit, if I say the data service reads 1/3/23 at 9:15, would that be where you would note the time you were scheduled to speak with the patient?
Yes.
Okay. And you're aware that on that same day, on January 3rd, that in addition to meeting with you, that she met with a social worker at 10:07 a.m., right?
Yes, the social worker and I would have met with her together.
Okay, but then the social worker would have their own note if there was any interaction that they were noting, and also a nurse as well.
Yes.
Right? And that on the 3rd, that Ms. Clancy participated in a group at 12:02 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And engaged with a mental health worker at 12:22 p.m., right?
I do know that she engaged with the mental health worker. The times are
okay.
Not something I recall.
If I indicate that the records show she
Yes.
did another group at 2:36 p.m., would that sound right?
Yes.
That she then declined a group at 3:50 p.m.
Yes.
and then saw another mental health worker in the evening before presumably she went to bed 8:52 p.m.
Yes.
Did you see her on January 4th?
Yes.
And so again, is this the same protocol? You meet, you talk, you discuss. Did you talk to her about how the previous night's sleep went?
Yes.
And how was that night's sleep?
She reported sleeping well.
Well?
I don't remember the exact words, but she said she slept. And
okay. And do you remember having a conversation with her again on that day, January 4th, about going home?
Yes.
And what did she say about that?
Originally, I think we were thinking, we had talked about discharge on Friday, and she stated that she was anxious being in the hospital, and that she wanted to be discharged so she could be home with her family and her children.
And so did she ask to leave earlier than Friday?
Yes.
And when she asked to leave earlier than Friday, what was your response to that?
Whenever I said she could leave provided she had psychiatric follow-up the next day.
And why did you do that?
I wanted to ensure that if she wasn't able to sleep that night after discharge, that she could speak.
Artie, you've been listening in there for the last, 15 minutes or so, maybe a little longer than that, to psychiatrist Dr. Jennifer Tufts. She treated Clancy at the mental hospital she stayed at, so we will continue to monitor this. So we want to take you right now for your hometown, your weather. I got a little consumed, so we're running a little short on time, but that's okay. I was a little consumed in just this trial and listening to what Lindsay Tufts had to say. Forecast not too bad at all as we go through the next few days. Today, low of 76 as we go into the evening. By tomorrow, high of 98 and a low of 77. Sunny skies continue. Then by Wednesday, maybe some clouds could be seen. High of 96 and a low of 77. So a hot few days ahead of us, but nothing too bad that we have not seen. Luckily, the humidity, it's there, but it's not miserable. So that's good to hear. At least that is going to wrap up this Monday edition of Brookland News Live. I want to note that we do have some scheduling changes coming for you all this week. So tomorrow, we're going to try to be here with you at 2 p.m. We will see how that goes. If that goes through, I have a busy morning and then an evening as well. So if I have enough time, I know I'll be somewhere around at 2 p.m., but I'm not sure that I'll be on the air, so don't count on that from me. I'll be honest with you, don't count on it. It just all depends how things go. Also, there's a bug on this camera. Can you see it? A bee or something just flew onto the camera there in Brooklyn at the R-Dot camera. Okay, sorry for the distraction, but I just noticed it there. In the meantime, though, remember you can follow us on all of our social media pages that have been scrolling there on the bottom of your screen. Also, go to brooklandnews.com. Midterm preview, it's still there. Nothing has changed just yet. So go right now, brooklandnews.com, click the first story that pops up. Read that story. There's a lot of key information in it ahead of the midterms, okay? Have a great rest of your day. I appreciate all of you for joining us. In the meantime, we'll see you. We will not see you Wednesday nor Thursday. We're going to try to be back here with you on Friday, though, okay? That does it for us. Have a great day, guys.